I remember sitting in my father's office when I was 8 years old, watching him review blueprints with that focused intensity I admired so much. He looked up at me and smiled, saying I had the Walker instinct that someday I would run this place. I believed him. For 30 years, I believed every word. I poured my heart into that company, thinking loyalty and hard work were enough. Then came a medical diagnosis I never saw coming. One slap across my face, and one sentence erased 3 decades of being his son. He chose my brother because I could not give him biological grandchildren. But sometimes losing everything is the only way to see who truly deserves your time. And sometimes watching it all burn is exactly what needs to happen. Before I tell you how I went from the golden child to the family outcast, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever felt like you were not enough for someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally. And subscribe because this story has a twist you will not see coming. I promise you, by the end, you will understand why walking away was the best decision I ever made. All right, let me take you back to where it all started. Walker & Sons Construction was not just a company. It was my grandfather's dream, built from nothing in 1972 in Portland, Oregon. He started with one truck and a toolbox, taking on small residential jobs until his reputation for quality work spread through the city. By the time my father, Richard Walker, took over in 1995, the company had grown into a respected name in commercial construction. We specialized in office buildings, retail spaces, and the occasional municipal project. Annual revenue hovered around $15 million. Not Fortune 500 money, but enough to provide comfortable lives for 2 generations of Walkers. I started working there the summer after high school graduation. 18 years old, eager to prove myself, convinced this was my destiny. My father made it clear from day one that I would start at the bottom. No special treatment for the boss's son. I appreciated that, actually. I spent those first months as a construction site helper, hauling materials, learning from seasoned crews who had been with the company for decades. They taught me to read the grain in lumber, to spot a foundation issue before it became a problem, to understand that construction was not just about following plans, but about anticipating challenges. Over 17 years, I worked my way up. Construction site helper became project coordinator. Project coordinator became operations manager. I knew every corner of that company, every supplier relationship, every client preference. I loved the work itself. The smell of fresh-cut wood in the morning, the sound of machinery bringing a design to life, the satisfaction of watching an empty lot transform into something solid and real. My father would walk job sites with me, pointing out details, asking my opinion on material choices. He would say, I had the Walker instinct, that combination of practical skill and business sense that could not be taught. Those words meant everything to me. My brother Derek was 3 years younger. He worked in the marketing department, handling client communications and promotional materials. He was decent at his job, never exceptional, but never problematic either. We had an okay relationship, not particularly close, but not antagonistic. We existed in separate spheres within the company. I handled operations and project management. He handled the public-facing side. It worked. Dad would sometimes pull me aside after particularly successful project completions. When I retire, this company needs someone who understands it from the ground up, he told me once, his hand on my shoulder. That is you, Jonathan. You have given this place everything. I looked him in the eye and promised I would not let him down. I told him this company was my life, and I meant it, every single word. 3 years ago, I met Sarah at a construction industry conference in Seattle. She was an architect presenting on sustainable building materials. Intelligent, articulate, with this warmth that made everyone in the room lean forward when she spoke. We talked for hours after her presentation, discovering shared passions for both the craft and the business side of construction. She was 32, same as me at the time, independent, successful in her own right, with no interest in being defined by anyone else's achievements. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. My father adored her. "She is perfect for you," he said, at a family dinner shortly after I introduced them. "Smart, stable, good family background. You found yourself a real partner, Jonathan." Those words felt like another form of approval, another confirmation that my life was unfolding exactly as it should. Sarah and I planned our wedding for the following spring. We talked about children, about raising a family in Portland, about eventually passing Walker and Sons to the next generation. I pictured teaching a son or daughter about the business the way my grandfather had taught my father, the way my father had taught me. Fourth generation Walker, the legacy continuing. We decided to be proactive about family planning. Sarah suggested we both get comprehensive health checkups before we started trying for children. Made sense. We were in our mid-30s, wanted to address any potential issues early. I scheduled appointments thinking this was just routine, responsible adult stuff. 2 weeks later, my doctor called and asked me to come in alone to discuss my results. The drive to his office felt longer than it should have. I kept telling myself it was probably nothing serious. Maybe cholesterol. Maybe I needed to adjust my diet. He sat me down in his consultation room and explained that my sperm count was severely low. The medical term was severe oligospermia, caused by a genetic condition I had apparently carried my entire life without knowing. Natural conception was highly unlikely. In vitro fertilization might be an option, but success rates would be significantly lower than average. He said this gently, professionally, like he had delivered this news before. But nothing prepared me for how those words landed. I drove home in a daze. Sarah was in the kitchen when I walked in. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "What did the doctor say?" she asked, setting down the cutting board. "Sarah, we need to talk." The doctor called. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. "Is everything okay?" I sat down at the kitchen table, suddenly exhausted. They said I cannot have kids, not naturally at least." She moved around the table and pulled me into her arms. Hey, we will figure this out. There are options. In vitro fertilization, adoption, surrogacy." "But it is not the same," I said, feeling something break inside my chest. "I always imagined a son or daughter carrying on the family name." "Jonathan, we will be okay. We have each other." She meant it. Sarah was steady when I felt like I was falling apart. Over the next few days, we researched options, talked to specialists, explored paths forward. She never once made me feel like less of a man. But I carried this weight anyway, this sense of failing at something fundamental. I decided to tell my father. Looking back, I realized part of me needed his reassurance. Needed him to say what Sarah had said, that this did not change anything about who I was or what I meant to the family. I thought honesty was always the right choice with family. I was so damn wrong. I asked my father to meet me for coffee that Sunday morning. We had a usual spot, a quiet diner on the east side where we could talk without interruption. He arrived right on time, ordered his usual black coffee, and settled into the booth across from me. I noticed the gray creeping into his temples, the lines around his eyes deeper than I remembered. He was 62. Retirement conversations had been happening more frequently lately. "What is on your mind, son?" he asked, wrapping both hands around his mug. I told him about the diagnosis, explained the medical terminology, made sure he understood this was not about lifestyle or choices, but about genetics, something beyond anyone's control. I emphasized that Sarah and I still had options: in vitro fertilization, adoption, surrogacy. We could still build a family. He listened without interrupting, his face unreadable. When I finished, he stared at his coffee for what felt like minutes. The silence stretched between us, heavy and strange. "So you are telling me you cannot give me grandchildren," he finally said. "Biological grandchildren." "It is not certain, Dad. We can try in vitro fertilization, or—" He cut me off. "In vitro fertilization, adoption, That is not the same Jonathan. His voice had changed, cold, distant, like I was a contractor presenting an unacceptable bid rather than his son sharing something devastating. The Walker name has been passed down father to son for generations, he continued, still not meeting my eyes. That is our legacy. That is what matters. I tried to explain that legacy could mean more than biology, that what I had built within the company was its own form of continuation. But he stood up, placed a $10 bill on the table, and said he needed time to process this. Then he walked out. No hug, no reassurance, nothing. I sat there for another 20 minutes, staring at that $10 bill, trying to understand what had just happened. The shift started 2 weeks later, subtle at first. Richard began assigning major projects to Derek, projects I had been managing, or that should have naturally come to me, given my role. Client meetings I would normally attend suddenly included Derek instead. Strategic planning sessions, where my input had always been valued, now featured Richard asking Derek's opinions repeatedly, sometimes cutting me off mid-sentence to hear what my brother thought. Then came the Henderson project, a $3 million commercial renovation I had spent 6 months negotiating and planning. The client specifically requested me as project lead based on my track record. One Tuesday morning, Richard called me into his office and told me Derek would be taking over. Why? I asked, genuinely confused. I have been working on this since the initial bid. Derek needs more experience in senior roles, Richard said, without looking up from his paperwork. But I have been working on this for 6 months. I have relationships with the client, with the subcontractors. It is decided, Jonathan. That was it. Conversation over. I walked out of his office feeling like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. Friday evening, Richard announced a family dinner at his house. My mother, Eleanor, Derek, his wife, Amanda, Sarah, and me. The dining room table was set formally, candles lit, my mother's good china out. It should have felt warm and familiar. Instead, it felt like a performance. Throughout dinner, Richard only addressed Derek, asked about his ideas for company expansion, complimented his recent presentation to a client, praised his vision for the marketing department. My mother tried multiple times to bring me into the conversation, asking about projects I was managing, but Richard's responses were clipped, uninterested. Then he set down his fork and made an announcement. I am thinking about some changes in the company structure. Derek, you will be moving into a vice president position. I want you taking on more strategic leadership. I put down my own fork, shocked. Dad, we have not discussed this. I am the operations manager. Should I not be part of conversations about structural changes? You will keep your current role, he said, finally looking at me. Derek is being promoted. Based on what criteria, I could not keep the edge out of my voice. I have 17 years of experience. I have managed millions of dollars in projects. Derek has been handling marketing for 5 years. This is not a debate, Richard said coldly. The decision is made. Sarah reached under the table and squeezed my hand. I saw my mother's face, pained and helpless. Derek looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. Amanda studied her plate. The rest of dinner passed in tense silence. In the car on the way home, Sarah exploded. This is so unfair. You have given that company everything, your entire adult life. He is punishing me, I said quietly, hands tight on the steering wheel, for something I cannot control. Maybe you should talk to him, really talk. Make him see how wrong this is. I will try one more time. The next day was Saturday. I drove to my parents' house knowing my father would be in his home office working. He always worked Saturdays. I knocked on the door and walked in without waiting for an answer. He looked up from his computer, expression neutral. What is it, Jonathan? Dad, we need to talk about what is happening. What is there to talk about? You are pushing me out because of something I cannot help. He leaned back in his chair, studying me like I was a problem to be solved. This is not about your work performance. Then what is it about I demanded, feeling 17 years of loyalty and effort coiling into anger. I have worked for this company since I was 18 years old. I have bled for it. I have given up weekends, holidays, time with Sarah, and now you are just discarding me. He stood up, his face hardening. This is not about your work. This is about legacy. Legacy, my voice rose. I am your legacy. I am your son. A son who cannot continue the family line, he shot back. Derek has 2 kids already, Jonathan. 2. He can give me more grandchildren. He can ensure the Walker name continues. So that is all I am to you, a breeding stallion. Watch your mouth, he said, stepping toward me. No, you watch your priorities, I was shouting now, past the point of controlling it. I am still your son, whether I can have kids or not. That should mean something. His hand came up fast. The slap cracked across my face, sharp and stinging. I stood there, frozen, hand rising to my cheek. The physical pain was nothing compared to what I felt looking at him in that moment. Since you cannot have kids, your brother will carry the legacy, he said, voice ice cold. I am giving him the company. Walker and Sons will pass to Derek. You can stay on as an employee if you want, but this is my decision. Final. I stared at this man who used to be my hero, this man I had worked beside for 17 years, this man whose approval I had chased my entire life. And I realized I was looking at a stranger. I turned and walked out without another word, drove home with my hands shaking on the wheel, his words echoing in my head. Since you cannot have kids. Like that was all that mattered. Like everything I had done, everything I had built, every sacrifice I had made, meant nothing because of something written into my genetics before I was born. Sarah was in the living room when I walked in. She took one look at my face and went pale. What happened? I told her everything. About the promotion he was giving Derek, about the company he was handing over, about the slap, about being told I was not worthy of the legacy because I could not produce biological heirs. She cried. I did not. Something inside me had gone cold and clear. That was the night I realized blood does not make you family, I said to her, my voice steady. Loyalty does, and he had just proven he had none. I did not sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Sarah beside me, and made a decision. By the time morning light filtered through the curtains, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I am leaving the company, I told Sarah over coffee Monday morning. She looked up from her mug, eyes red from crying the night before. Are you sure that company is your life? No, I said firmly. It was my life, but it was never really mine, was it? It was always conditional on me being exactly what he wanted. And the moment I could not deliver that, I became disposable. What will you do? Build something that actually belongs to me. I spent that morning writing my resignation letter, kept it short and professional. Effective immediately, I resigned from Walker & Sons Construction. Thank you for the opportunity. Printed it out, sealed it in an envelope, drove to the office. I walked straight to my father's door and slid the envelope under it without knocking. Then I went to my own office and packed my personal belongings. 17 years fit into 2 cardboard boxes. Colleagues stopped by, asked what was happening. I smiled and told them it was time for a change. No drama, no explanations. I walked out of that building at 11 in the morning and never looked back. My mother called that afternoon crying. Jonathan, please do not do this. Come back and talk to your father. Work this out. Mom, he made his choice. Now I am making mine. He is traditional, old-fashioned. He will come around. I am not waiting around to be valued, Mom. I deserve better than that. She sobbed harder, but I stayed firm. My father did not call, not that day, not the next, not for 2 years. I had savings, 17 years of living below my means, investing wisely, preparing for the future I thought I would have. $250,000, enough to start something new. I registered a new company, Apex Construction Solutions, filed all the paperwork, got my contractor's license transferred, set up a business account. I leased a small office space in northeast Portland, nothing fancy. Started reaching out to suppliers and subcontractors I had worked with for years, people who knew my reputation and respected my work. Some of them were hesitant. I was competing with Walker & Sons now, after all. But others remembered projects I had managed, problems I had solved, the way I treated crews with respect. 5 guys agreed to come work with me from the start. Skilled workers who were tired of the bureaucracy at larger companies and wanted to be part of something leaner. The first 3 months were brutal. Cash flow was tight. Projects were small. I worked 80-hour weeks doing everything from bidding to bookkeeping to actual construction work. Sarah supported us financially with her architecture income, never once complaining. At night I would come home exhausted, covered in dust, and she would have dinner ready and encouragement prepared. Then we caught our first real break. A client needed a historic building downtown renovated for use as a boutique hotel. Medium-sized project, decent budget, challenging work that required attention to detail and knowledge of preservation standards. I bid competitively and met with the client personally, walking them through my experience, showing them my track record. They hired Apex, and we delivered. Finished 3 weeks ahead of schedule and $12,000 under budget without cutting any corners. The client was thrilled. They referred us to their network. Momentum started building. Month 6, we had a steady stream of projects. By the end of year 1, revenue hit $1.5 million. I reinvested every spare dollar into equipment and hiring more staff. Word spread in the Portland construction community. Apex delivered quality without corporate bureaucracy. We were nimble, responsive, and we actually cared about the work. Year 2, revenue doubled. I hired a proper office manager, expanded the crew, took on larger commercial projects. I felt something I had not felt in years, genuine pride. Not pride in living up to someone else's expectations, but pride in building something truly mine, something that existed because of my skills, my relationships, my vision. Sarah and I got married that year. Small ceremony, just close friends. No family drama, no expectations. Just 2 people committing to build a life together on our own terms. Around the 18-month mark after I left, I started hearing rumors through industry channels. Walker & Sons was struggling. Suppliers mentioned payment delays. Former colleagues reached out asking if I was hiring. I did not dig for information, but it kept reaching me anyway. A former project manager who had stayed at Walker & Sons met me for lunch and laid out what was happening. Derek was in over his head. He had no operational experience, no instinct for managing complex projects. He was making costly mistakes, miscalculating budgets, letting projects run over schedule, upsetting longtime clients with poor communication. Silverstone Properties, one of Walker & Sons' biggest clients, had pulled out of a $5 million contract. The official reason was strategic restructuring, but everyone in the industry knew it was because Derek had botched the preliminary work so badly they had lost confidence. Derek was also spending money recklessly, upgraded the office with expensive furniture nobody needed, hired friends into key positions despite them having no relevant experience. The company was hemorrhaging cash while revenue declined. Key employees were leaving. People who had been with the company for decades, who had worked under my father for years, were walking out. Some came to work for Apex. I hired 3 of them, guys I knew and respected. They told me morale was in the basement. Nobody respected Derek's leadership, and my father, they said, looked older, tired, stressed in a way they had never seen. Then came the news about my father's health. Mild heart attack. Not life-threatening, but a warning. My mother called to tell me, her voice shaking. The doctor said stress was a major factor. The company is killing him, Jonathan. I felt a complicated knot of emotions. I did not want my father to suffer, but I also could not muster much sympathy for consequences he had created. He chose this. He chose to discard a competent son in favor of one who could provide grandchildren. He chose legacy over leadership. Now he was living with that choice. By the end of year 2, Walker and Sons' value had dropped from around $15 million to roughly $4 million. My father was forced to take a step back due to health concerns. Derek was nominally in charge, but from what I heard, he was drowning. One evening, my phone rang. My mother's number. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. "Jonathan," she said, her voice thick with tears, "your father wants to talk to you." "Mom, I do not think—" "Please, just listen." There was a pause, some rustling. Then my father's voice came on. He sounded older, weaker, humbled in a way I had never heard. "Jonathan, I need your help." I said nothing. Let the silence stretch. "The company is in trouble. Derek cannot handle it. I was wrong. I need you to come back." "Come back as what?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "As an employee again? As partner, co-owner, whatever you want. We can work out the details. Just please, Jonathan, we need you." "What I wanted," I said slowly, "was to be respected as your son, not as a means to an end, not as someone valuable only if I could produce heirs. I wanted you to see me for what I had actually contributed, not what you thought I should contribute. I know, I was wrong. Please, this is our family legacy." Something in me snapped cold and final. "No, Dad, that is your legacy. Mine is Apex. I built that from nothing with no help from you. I built it after you threw me away. And you know what I am proud of it. Prouder than I ever was of Walker and Sons. You would let the company die." His voice rose, anger creeping back in. "Everything your grandfather built, you let our relationship die," I said calmly. "You chose Derek because he could have kids. You slapped me across the face and told me I was not good enough to carry the family name. Now, live with that choice." I hung up. Sarah looked at me from across the room, tears in her eyes. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. I really am. Something shifted in me after that phone call. It was not triumph, not vindication, just clarity. I had spent 2 years building Apex, proving to myself that I did not need my father's approval or his company. But part of me had still been carrying the weight of that rejection, still wondering if I had made the right choice in walking away. That phone call confirmed it. He did not want me back because he valued me. He wanted me back because Derek was failing and he needed someone to save what he had built. It was still transactional, still conditional, and I was done accepting conditional love from anyone. Apex continued to grow. Year 3, we hit $4 million in revenue. I hired 15 employees total, all people I respected and who shared my vision for what construction work could be. We specialized in sustainable building practices, green construction, LEED certification. It set us apart in the Portland market. We won an award from the local business association for innovative small business practices. Sarah and I had long conversations about our future, about family, about what we wanted our lives to look like. The infertility diagnosis still hurt sometimes, still felt like a loss. But it had also opened our eyes to different possibilities. We decided to adopt. Went through the process, the home studies, the interviews, the waiting, and then we met Lily. She was 5 years old in foster care after her biological parents lost custody. Big brown eyes, quiet demeanor, a wariness that broke my heart. She had been through more in 5 years than most kids experience in a lifetime. The first time she stayed overnight at our house, she asked if she had to leave the next morning. Sarah knelt down to her level and said, "Honey, this is your home now, for as long as you want it to be." Lily looked at me uncertain. I smiled and said, "We are not going anywhere, and neither are you." 3 months later, the adoption was finalized. Lily became Lily Walker Thompson, taking both our last names. The day the judge signed the papers, she looked up at me and said, "Can I call you Dad now?" I had to step out of the courtroom for a minute because I could not stop crying. Holding her that day, feeling her small arms wrap around my neck, I understood something profound. My father was wrong about everything that mattered. Legacy is not about blood. It is not about passing down a last name through biological children. Legacy is about who you become and how you treat people. It is about building something worth inheriting, whether that is a business or a set of values, or simply the knowledge that you are loved unconditionally. Lily made me a father, not genetics, not biology, love, commitment, the choice to show up every day and be the parent she needed. I heard through various channels what happened to Walker and Sons. The company was eventually sold to a larger construction firm based in Seattle. My father was forced out due to continuing health issues and the financial pressure of declining revenue. Derek lost his position in the sale. He had to find work elsewhere, ending up as a middle manager at a competitor. Not an owner, not a leader, just another employee. Richard and Eleanor moved to a smaller house, downsizing for retirement. The new owners of Walker and Sons rebranded, completely absorbing it into their existing corporate structure. The Walker name disappeared from the business world. The legacy my father fought so hard to preserve, the legacy he sacrificed his relationship with his son to protect, vanished anyway. I did not feel joy when I heard that, did not feel vindicated or smug, just a kind of sad acceptance. Some things are not meant to last, especially when they are built on the wrong foundations. My mother and I maintained some contact, lunch every few months. She adored Lily, brought her gifts, showed up for school events when we invited her. She never pressured me to reconcile with my father. I think she understood finally what he had done and why I could not forgive it. Richard never truly apologized. The phone call asking me to return was as close as he came, and even that was transactional. He wanted my skills, not my forgiveness. We have not spoken since. He has never met Lily. His choice, ultimately. I went to therapy, both individual counseling and marriage counseling with Sarah. Worked through the anger, the grief, the sense of betrayal. Learned to separate my self-worth from my father's approval. Learned that walking away from toxic relationships, even family ones, is not failure. It is self-preservation. The anger faded over time. What replaced it was something calmer, not forgiveness exactly, more like acceptance. My father showed me who he was, and I chose to believe him. He valued genetic legacy over character biology, over loyalty, tradition, over love. Those were his priorities, not mine. And I was free to build my life around different values. Here is what I learned from losing everything. Your worth is not determined by what you can give other people. Not children, not a legacy, not even your labor. You are valuable because you exist, because you are human, because you deserve love and respect simply for being who you are. Anyone who makes you feel otherwise does not deserve a place in your life, even if they are family, especially if they are family. I spent 17 years trying to be good enough for my father, 17 years working to earn approval that should have been freely given. Turns out I was always good enough. He just could not see it, because he was measuring the wrong things. When he slapped me that day, when he chose my brother over me because of something beyond my control, he did not break me. He freed me. He showed me exactly who he was, and I finally had permission to walk away. Permission I had been waiting for without realizing it. I am not angry anymore. Honestly, I am grateful. Because losing his approval taught me to find my own. Building Apex from scratch proved I never needed his company. And becoming Lily's father showed me that family is something you create through love, not genetics. That the people who choose you are often more loyal than the people who are obligated to you by blood. Lily is 7 now. She calls me Dad without hesitation. She helps me at job sites sometimes on weekends, wearing a little hard hat. Sarah bought her asking questions about how buildings are made. She is curious and brave and healing from her early trauma in ways that astound me daily. When I look at her, I see my real legacy, not a company, not a name on a building, but a child who knows she is loved, who is learning that she has value just by existing, who will grow up understanding that family is built through commitment and care. If you are listening to this and you are trying to earn someone's love, especially a parent's love, by being someone you are not, I want you to hear this clearly. Stop. Let them go. Build something that is truly yours. Because the only legacy that matters is the one you are proud of when you look in the mirror. And trust me, watching everything burn, watching the company my father chose over me collapse, watching the legacy he valued more than his own son disappear completely, sometimes that is exactly what needs to happen for something better to grow. From the ashes of Walker and Sons, I built Apex. From the rejection of a father, I found the freedom to become the father I want to be. From the loss of conditional love, I learned what unconditional love actually looks like. So let me ask you this. Have you ever walked away from something everyone expected you to stay in? Have you ever chosen your own path, even when it meant disappointing people who were supposed to support you? Drop a comment and share your story. I read every single one, and I promise you are not alone in this. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel because I share more stories about finding strength in the hardest moments. And share this video with someone who needs to hear that their worth is not conditional, that they deserve better than people who only value them for what they can provide. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. And remember, the family you choose is often stronger than the family you are born into. The legacy you build yourself is always more meaningful than the one handed to you. And sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they are so you can finally walk away. I hope wherever you are, whatever you are facing, you find the courage to value yourself as much as you deserve. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, you are enough. You have always been enough.